Damn, y'all. I was talking this whole time and the goddamn mic wasn't on. This is hilarious. I was having a whole ass conversation. I had a whole ass conversation. Mercury is motherfucking retrograde, okay? That hoe is backtracking over everything. We had a whole ass conversation with y'all. And I'm like, why has no one responded? No sound. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. That shit was on mute. So what I was saying was this is so fitting, y'all. Because I was saying before I got online, I had to have me a smoke because my stomach has been a hot ass mess. I woke up and anxiety was all over the bitch. So I said, okay, me and the plant can have a conversation. And then I was trying to say, if you listen to my old podcast, Abolitionist Dreamscapes, you would know that every season or so I would have an episode where it was Thoughts While High. I would talk with Donnell after we'd have some smoke. And so basically, I'm kind of reintroducing that back again, but with myself. And my high ass didn't realize the mic was off. So, welcome, y'all. Welcome. So, let's get started. Let's get started. We're gonna have some fun today, this morning, because it's already a wild ride. So, like I said, I decided to have a smoke before this week's show. So we have an elevated conversation with the cosmos today. All right. So this week we got a new moon in Scorpio, and both Mercury and Uranus are part of this conversation, meaning once again, Mercury is that hoe in everybody's business. So sudden changes in communication, thought, transportation, and money systems are going to be highlighted. All right. As we plant new seeds in the deep waters of Scorpio, that is at a Cancerian degree of 28. So what needs to emerge from the depths to the surface for new beginnings to take shape that will break from the norms that are literally crumbling at our feet? So this is another opportunity that the cosmos is extending to us all to dream of new futures as it shows us the realities of the reality that we are currently in. So basically, do we dare to take up the challenge? It's a wild week, this y'all. Like, it's a wild week. So let's get into it. So this is the weekly forecast from November 16th to the 22nd. The new moon in Scorpio, what I'm calling secrets reveal, but also let's see what Thoughts Why High reveals as well with the cosmos. Okay. So welcome back to Yapping with the Stars, the show where I talk about life and spirit with the help of the planets, stars, and zodiacs, and a little bit of common sense as well. I am your host and guide, Nicole Rouse, a storyteller who comes from a line of storytellers who weave and tell stories in many different ways. And here I work with astrology and ethnography to explore the stories of what it means for us to be human today. Because right now, the present is up for grabs. So who is leading the stories that will bring us into our futures? Now, every Sunday we check in with the cosmos we check in with the chaos of society and ask two questions. What's the cosmos showing us this week? And what are we being called to move, create, burn, build, or reflect upon? Okay, y'all. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about this damn new moon. New moon in Scorpios really be bringing up a lot for me, right? And I know that's where I live, here for the cosmos and elevation. Here we gonna get elevated. Something I was thinking about this morning. I woke up with some anxiety, like I was saying, and sometimes I don't know why. And I'm trying to figure this shit out. You know what I mean? Like, and I talk a lot about how as we get older. I'm 44. So as we get older, right, there's a way that we get these big emotions, but we don't know what to do with them because we don't know what the hell they are. And that's kind of the kind of wave I've been in lately is I'm getting these strong emotions, also like these kind of strong downloads. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And because I'm so used to being anxious, like I know many of us are, right? Because that was a constant kind of emotion that I also learned how to navigate, especially when I was working in higher ed and married and all that shit, right? There's a way that as I get these new emotions that come through now, it's I want to jump to its anxiety, but I'm realizing that's not actually helping me understand what's going on. So I'm literally learning how to ride these waves to figure out what it is that like I'm feeling and what is the purpose of this, you know, because I do believe emotions tell us things. It's another way of knowing, it's another kind of language that we have to learn. And so what I'm learning, y'all, is that a bitch feels a lot. That's what I'm learning. I'm learning that really I just feel a lot, right? It's just I will feel some shit. And then it got me thinking about, okay, so then I'm always like, okay, what the hell, right? What the hell is the cosmos saying then? Like what is the cosmos? How can it help me understand these big ass waves and shit? And then I realized we're in a fucking water trine. We're in this goddamn water trine. We've been in this water trine and will we continue to be in this water trine. And Saturn and Jupiter, right, are kind of steering this, and they're both retrograde. Saturn's in Neptune, or Saturn's in Pisces, excuse me, right? And then Neptune is in excuse me, Saturn's in Pisces and Jupiter is in Cancer. Sorry, I am a little high, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. Jupiter's in Cancer. And so these are kind of stabilizing the kind of base of this water trine, and then it's having a conversation with Scorpio. And since Scorpio is real active right now because it's Scorpio season, but we have a number of planets that have been transiting through Scorpio, it's like these inner planets are constantly getting washed literally through the deep waters of Scorpio, but then are having to have these conversations with structures. Because remember, Jupiter and Saturn are the most outer inner planet, right? So these are kind of the structures of society, the mom and dad. I call them if you've taken the class with me in Patreon, I call them the MC and DJ, right? Saturn being the DJ and Jupiter being the MC, they become this kind of location to help us understand structures and tradition and culture at the same time as faith and religion and law and all those things, right? So it feels for me, these big emotions make sense. There's this way riding these waves of having to feel personally the impact of structures of society that are now revealing their asses to us. And so there's a way that I keep coming back in this story that I feel the cosmos is having us go on, this story that is giving us permission with these new moons that are going to be at 28 degrees, have been the last two new moons, will continue to be until we get to Aries, y'all. We are being asked to retell the story in different ways of how we engage with the reality of Cancerian themes of 28 degrees, of family, of community, of care, of nurturing, of home, of mothering. All of the shit that we are told in society to not value, but exploit from, right? In one way, shape, or form. And so now we're being confronted with the reality of that reality, right? As I was saying earlier, we're confronting with the reality of what it means to only understand those locations as quote unquote soft, therefore not needed, therefore somehow as extraneous. When what have we been talking about in the US, especially the past few weeks? And what has the state been playing with us for the past few weeks about? It's about how the fuck we feed ourselves, our kids, our families, one another. So now we're going back to the basis of care. We're having to realize, bitch, if we don't feel, if we don't feel this shit, if we don't get into this shit, if we don't realize that the reality of the reality we are in is hitting us and smacking us in the face, telling us that we're going to have to feel, ride the waves, right, of these currents that keeps splashing in our face, right? We're going to have to get clear about what we are feeling. Scorpio is the depths, right? It's the bounded waters. It's the things that we can bind ourselves around because we want to hurt ourselves before we hurt somebody else, because that's how we think about defending ourselves. But what if we realize that the way we even been talked about Scorpio as wanting to sting itself first before it stings others, but it happens to be a water sign, the feminine version of Mars? What if that's a way for us to buy into this idea that we're supposed to murder ourselves first as a way to quote unquote be good kind of beings in these societies? What if we realized that was the lie to begin with? Right? What if we flip these stories, even the archetypes that we are engaging with in these kind of ways we understand the cosmos, right? What if we break some shit? And I'm saying it this way because when we have this new moon happening, it's going to be in a conversation, not just as kind of a little bit off of this water trine, because we're going to still have Jupiter and Mars, or Jupiter and Saturn in a conversation with Lilith that's going to be right next to this new moon. It's going to have Mercury as well next to it too. It's going to be opposing Uranus and Taurus. Breaks, sudden things, right? Shocks and revelations. What if we have to be revealed to us if that is that the waves of emotions that are coming up that are uncomfortable, that we don't understand, that we're having to grapple with because we are dealing with the reality that the structures of society, the infrastructure that we were told were going to support us, we're going to maintain us, we're going to give us the care, as long as we gave it our bodies, our biggest care, right? The biggest sacrifice. What if and we're realizing now that that is breaking, that we're not getting any of that. So now again, we have to feel. So then what does it mean for us to rethink these archetypes, rethink the stories of how we even understand what it means to be in these bounded deep waters? Because to me, we are all being washed. In Saturn in Pisces right now, right? As it went through there for 2.5 years and it's going back and as a review, it is being washed itself in the deep waters. It has cleansed itself. It is emerging once again, asking us to reflect upon the kind of ways we understand tradition, we understand authority, we understand time, right? If we can flip time, if we understand that the timelines are colliding right now, and this new moon is a time of planting new seeds, which means we have to plant new stories, plant new kind of ideas, plant new understandings of what it means for us to think about Cancerian themes, 28 degrees in the bounded deep waters of Scorpio. Well, I think we have to rethink the story of Scorpio. So then we got to feel some shit and ask ourselves the things that we are feeling. Is it really always negative or in terms of how we are perceiving emotions to be? So am I feeling anxiety this morning when I woke up, or was I feeling the need to get up and create? Right? And that's what I'm navigating now, figuring out what these big, strong emotions are, and then using and working with the chart to figure out, okay, how do I engage with it? Because funny enough, as a Scorpio rising, that means that what's hidden to me is air. My 12th, 4th, and 8th house are ruled by the element of air. So for me to figure out what the darkness is, what the waters are, because those are all water houses traditionally, right? When those are the water houses, but my water houses are filtered through air, there's a way that I got to talk this shit out to figure out what the hell I am even feeling, right? So the Scorpio rising that I am, that has taught myself this whole life to bound myself, to feel deeply, but only feel it for myself, to not release it and speak it out because I'm doing too much, being too much, right? I'm realizing that that was the lie told to me, the structure put upon Uranus sitting ascending, Uranus being conjunct my ascendant. If I rewrite that story, then I'm realizing the power of speaking out, the power of speaking about these big ass emotions that I'm trying to figure out what it is that is going on, because I understand the depths of the fucking oceans that can bound you. So what does it mean to unbind yourself? We have to unbind ourselves with these goddamn stories. So this new moon in Scorpio, y'all, is about telling a new goddamn story, a new story about the taboo things in society, the things that we are told to stuff down, to put away, to somehow don't have it come out and play. Funny enough, I'm doing the Queer and Chaos conversation this week, but next month in December, we're going to talk about this. It's literally called Queer and Pleasure, Play, and Taboo Things. And we're going to engage with what it means to queer this stuff by talking with folks who do play parties, somebody who does shroom education in the Black queer community, and then a mother, child, son duo who does both a witch market and a drag show. They've been doing it monthly in Chicago for years, and it's come and created its own kind of communities. I'm really excited for that. But this week, funny enough, right, in the Queer and Chaos conversation, we are talking about this idea of family and community, and queering this idea of family and community. And this really is in a conversation with the cosmos, funny enough. And I hadn't even really paid attention when I was constructing the idea of the series as part of the project, and then working with Forrest as we were kind of going through the kind of story itself of what these conversations are going to bring about. I'm an astrologer, sometimes on a good one, because I didn't put it in, I wasn't really thinking. And then when I realized the astrology of this moment, and every third Tuesday when we're meeting is around a new moon, moon, and all these new moons are in 28 degrees, right? The way I'm talking about queering conversations is in direct conversation with the cosmos, because we have to queer all these different aspects of the ways we understand care and love in society by getting into spirit, by getting into the construction of family and how we have to be intentional about community. And then how that leads into examining pleasure, play, and taboo things. Because if we don't examine the taboo things in society, right, then shame comes in. Forrest does a beautiful job of talking about this a lot. How shame comes in. And once we instill shame as our understanding of the emotion of desire and pleasure that is just naturally being human. But if we're not allowed to be human because we're not allowed to be children, because childhood is something that is commodified in these fucked up systems. So therefore, what do children do? Children feel. That's what babies do. The first way they communicate is through the stomach, by crying, by laughing, by being emotional. But then we even say babies are manipulative at 6 months old. Whoever told us that bullshit? I can pimp smack them. How the hell is a 6-month-old going to be manipulative? No, it's fucking hungry, or it's got a dirty diaper, right? Or it just wants to be held because that's what a human baby is supposed to do. But if we've already at that moment in time, right, of a child's life, already demonized the emotion as somehow being a way to extract from you, right? Right? They are the realists, Liv. Exactly. Baby and children are the realists. They reveal things to us, the mirrors. But if we don't want to look at ourselves, then as the child gets older, we take that from them, right? We constantly take it from them. We take their creativity, their curiosity, their play, right? So then what happens if we stop making these things like desire, these things like just sensuality, your body awakening? If we stop making them taboo so that we don't put shame on it, then there's a way that we can then foster much more creativity in society. So in January, we're talking about queering, right, art and culture, by really getting into what does it mean for last night a DJ saved my life. When we center creativity and arts through a queer lens, right, well, then that allows us to dream. And so February is a culmination of a dream incubator. What does it really look like to conjure in the public, not just talk about it, but actually fucking do it? These new moons are asking us to review all of this in different ways. So Scorpio, the deep waters, the bounded waters, the one that can go into the taboo places, into the depths, who talks with the underworld. So goes where the dead reside. Well, shit, y'all. If you fuck with the dead, if you fuck with the Gede, especially, right, in the Lawach and in the Haitian Vodou tradition, the dead, we are heathens. When the Gede come down, when the dead come down, people drinking, people fucking, people smoking, right? That is what that looks like. The dead understand what it means to live. That's why when they come down in a body, they live. So what happens, right, if we allow ourselves to reshape understandings of care and nurturing, right? Family, community, all of that through a scorpionic lens? Well, then the idea of family and community then has to be reshaped based upon who is our bloodlines and who are we looking to, right? Who do we engage with to think about how we construct the family? And if we're more intentional about the family construction, then we got to get more intentional about what it means to build community. And so Tuesday, we're going to talk about that, right? We're going to sit around a table talking with Moya Bailey, Roy Kinsey, and Kristen Kaza, with myself and Forrest Brooks. We're going to have Spirit there. I'm calling down the queer mothers to sit with us as well, and working with the audience to really talk about what does it mean for us to work with this new moon and Scorpio energy and start to really queer, right, the boundaries that we put around how we have to get into our emotions, into our feelings, and believe the realities we're in, so that we can remake and reshape the foundations of these societies to have better economic systems. So this is about family and community, because again, it's the same story I've been talking about, but I'm going to keep talking about this shit, right? If we don't know how to treat each other well, then all we understand is extraction, right? Because it is literally taught to us from birth. Because we think about even babies having emotions as somehow manipulative. Well, then how can we have any economic system that will not some way, shape, or form become exploitative? Whether you call it socialist or communist or capitalist. This is why we have not had, quote unquote, a successful right? Type of economic system that has not been exploitative in the modern era. And yes, we can talk about interference from these kind of imperialist states. That is not conspiratorial, that is real. And at the same time, even if we were able to make these so-called utopian type of systems, do we know how to treat each other in a way that will not eventually lead into exploitation in some way, shape, or form? Right. So that's also what we're being asked to examine with this new moon in Scorpio. Why? Because Mercury's little ass is right next to it. New moon is going to be conjunct at the exact same degree as Mercury going what? Retrograde on back. And if you were here at the beginning, Mercury retrograde, been on my ass because I was talking for a good 2 minutes and the mic was off. The mic was off. It is now on. But this is a review, right? A review of our beliefs and what we're going to do with them. Because Mercury went from Sagittarius, right? The sign of adventure, but of knowledge, of beliefs, of systems, right? Belief systems into the deep waters once again as Scorpio. This is going to be the secrets being revealed. Right? Where our beliefs lie about the secrets that are being revealed. It will show us more about ourselves as we get into the taboo things of society. So Mercury is going to be airing out folks' business. And Mercury has been busy, y'all. Remember back in the summer where I said Mercury was leading? Mercury has been leading a lot this year, and it makes sense. Why? Because we're at a goddamn crossroad. The stars can't get any louder. It's saying, bitch, all of y'all, no matter if you like it or not, change is here. We got the outer planets change signs, every big ass transit that we have where everything's retrograding, or we got Mercury, in a conversation either with these new moons, with these transitions, right? It was all over the retrograde in Leo before, right? There's a way that the crossroads is here. Mercury is the crossroad. It's the both and the and. It's everything and nothing at the exact same time. So this makes sense that Mercury's little ass is right in the middle, the non-binary. See, even see before we try to get all cutesy with our language here, the cosmos been saying they've been playing around with gender and everything else, right? Because Mercury is neither masculine or feminine; it is both and. It is the crossroad because it is the planet that can deliver things. It can get the closest to the sun, and it can also come back. It's constantly delivering messages. That's why it's constantly in these retrogrades. It's not to make your life bad or more hard. It's for us to realize that time is not linear nor progressive. You must always reflect and review upon something. And when you're in a massive societal change and you want to ignore, right? When we want to not really look at the warning signs that have been coming, because Uranus and Taurus the last 7 years has been showing us that none of this shit is stable. Been showing us economically and food wise and infrastructure wise that we were going to be fucked. We didn't want to believe that because Neptune's ass was in Pisces, having us go into the deep waters of the state's delusions about all of this stuff. Well, now we're changing. It dried out. Neptune was out in Aries for a bit. It's back in Neptune, but at 29 degrees, mean it's going to go right back into Aries. Next February is going to be loud. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Next week, about some of the transits coming up for the new year that are going to be a part of this conversation. So it's the beginning of this conversation of us having to review the way that we understand our economic systems and who we put our belief in, what authority we put our belief in. So do we believe our feelings, y'all? Do we understand what is coming up? These new waves, these things that must be dealt with because this water trine, we're being supported by the parents of the cosmos saying, baby, we know this shit is hard, but you're going to have to look at and get serious about the authority you own and basing that upon the stories that you have constructed to build these systems upon. And then Jupiter's saying, yeah, because the biggest structure you got to really think about is the family. Cancer is the home, is the roots, is the idea we understand mothering. So what does it look like for us to think of an economic systems in which the mothers come back out? I don't care. I've been saying this for a minute now. This is the rise of the mothers. But what are we going to do about it? It's not the opposite of the patriarch. It's a different way of being. But do we know how to have a different way of being? In order for us to do that, we're going to have to get in our feelings. That's the Mariah Carey well, actually, that was Jasmine Sullivan. But then Mariah's got a new song out on her new album as well about you and your feelings too. So you know what I'm trying to say, y'all. I got them mixed up. Anywho, So what we're doing here, right, is this whole conversation. Mercury is saying the crossroads is here. The crossroads is here. Change is here. Everything and nothing at the exact same time. So do you have and own your feet? Because when you're at the crossroads, it's chaos. It's swirling around everything and nothing at the exact same time. Can you ground in and get some clarity by coming into the middle of that crossroad, by coming into the body? Because now it's an opposition to Uranus. This new moon is also going to be opposing Uranus, the higher octave of Mercury. Mercury said, not only am I going to fuck y'all up, I got my big sibling here. I got big sib Uranus, right? And if I think of the Mercury as Elagua and I think of Uranus as Oya energy, so Elagua energy for Mercury and Oya energy for Uranus, that is a lot. That's a lot going on, right? That's a conversation of the trickster saying, "Hey, I got big sis who's all about change. Has got that knife. Has got that is able to cut through shit." Right? So can we cut through the what we are feeling? Can we cut through the kind of ways that we have been taught to not look at the taboo things, to not look at the ways that we understand our relationship to money? Because Mercury is also a planet that rules money, but Scorpio does as well. And Uranus is in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. It's all about systems of money as well. Commerce, money, transportation. And so, if we're thinking about how we want to envision new worlds, and we have to bring in a conversation about the family and systems and governance and community and the relationships and the like, right? We are being asked to have to review how we relate to our own sense of self, our own understandings of these things, because that will then influence the new beginnings that we have. We got to face the reality that we are in, and that reality is coming through literally the body. So this new moon in Scorpio really got me thinking about the new moon in Scorpio that I always come back to, which was now 4 years ago in 2021. That was November 4th, 2021. And that's the new moon that I said broke my brain, where I literally felt like my brain broke. And I was in Howell, Michigan. I was still married. I had just bought a house. And it's taken me 13 months. 13 months to buy this house. It was the middle of the lockdowns. I had moved from Rhode Island after leaving Brown, had finished my contract at Harvard, and I was trying to create this business that I'm now in, that I'm still trying to commit to. And shit was hard. It was hard. And not just because the world was at that time truly on fire and we were still trying to figure out what this whole kind of COVID thing was, and every state was different and regulations. And, this was really the rumblings of as well, Trump trying to still maintain his kind of power. A lot of shit was going on, so society wise. But then personally, right, I was having to come to face a new reality that I was leaving my career. I was moving to Michigan, and I had told myself, I had convinced myself, y'all. I've had some good friends have to tell me that I can convince myself of a lot of shit. I had convinced myself that I was a country woman who can live in the country, and tend to some land and do some kind of teaching on the side. I don't know who the hell I thought I was at that time, but I definitely lost my mind. Well, then that new moon in Scorpio comes. I had gotten this house. I had taken a bunch of money out of my retirement to do it because I was trying to prove my worth. Because again, I wasn't working. The first time in my life where I was doing my own business, but I wasn't having a steady paycheck in. And there was a lot of trauma around money and value and worth and feeling like I always had to be working, right? This kind of fucking working mentality and trope. And so got in this house, did 13 months of also workings. Like I was working with DeFi as well, like stubborn as hell, saying, this is what I want, making the offerings, the sacrifices, all this shit. And I got what I asked for. Got into that motherfucking house, y'all. And I was like, what the fuck was I thinking? I'm not even joking. What the fuck was I thinking? Started painting. Realized real quick that my ex and I were not on the same page, seeing a whole different side of him because we had moved back to the town that his family was in. And I had forgotten why both of us had literally moved and basically ran away 14 years prior. We used my degree as an excuse, me having to get the degree and moving around for my job, but neither one of us had really faced the traumas of our family. So now here I was living in somebody else's fucking trauma, therefore living in somebody else's depression. That is a hard place to live in when you finally realize you are living in somebody else's reality. So I'm sitting in that bed after we had gotten into it, painting my office because his mom and sister wanted to come over, and instead of saying no that he wanted a break because we had been living with them for fucking 12 months looking for this place to live, which is a whole nother set of stories, he decided to just start drinking, right? To ignore it. And so his drunk ass is painting my office, got shit paint everywhere. His mama and sister coming over. I'm trying to play hostess here, try not to cuss his ass out there, right? We got a little one who we're trying to unpack their room. When everybody had left that night, I sat at the edge of that bed. And I realized it was the new moon in Scorpio. I put my hands on my head and I was like, what the fuck was I thinking? And then that's when the question came, are you straight, Nicole? And I don't know where the hell that question came from, but when I say the question came out of nowhere, I really do actually mean that, y'all. It was like somebody had been whispering like in my brain all of a sudden real loud, are you straight, Nicole? And I was like, what the hell? What the hell? And that's when it came out of nowhere, this guttural thing, no. And then the tears. It was like this wave of just like, I don't know, like, the way I can describe it now, because I can see it differently now. It's like it's like I'm observing it now, sitting on the bed with me, and I can see what was happening. It was like this black shit was just coming up and out of me, right? And it was just coming out through every orifice with all the tears and crying and muck and all of that. That was 4 years ago, right? That was that new moon in Scorpio. And something told me, look at the overall transits of that day. Tell me why that new moon was also directly opposite Uranus and Taurus at 12 degrees. 12 degrees being a Piscean degree if you go into degree theory. And when I looked at the rest of my chart, I realized I was also at that time in the damn middle of my astrological middle age transits. I was in my Neptune square and my Pluto square. So the illusions, the illusions that I had thought about myself, because Neptune's in my second house natally in Sag. It was squaring Neptune and Pisces in my fifth house. So childhood understandings of myself, of my creativity, fifth house is sexuality, it's dating, it's all of these things where it's squaring. I had to face these stories. At the same time, Pluto in the 12th house for me natally at 22 degrees, right, was squaring in the third house, yeah, at the time in Capricorn. That's the third house is communication. It's local community. It's siblings. It's it's how we think. It's our mental faculties, right? That new moon was literally. It felt like my brain broke because literally was meant to. There was a way that I had to face those emotions, get into the depths of that scorpionic kind of cesspool that I had convinced myself that if I just built myself boundaried around more and more, if I just stuffed it down more and more, I could go along to get along. I could buy into the story that seemed the easiest to do because I had already gone through so much change, right? You want to know what a Uranus going through your seventh house transit feels like? For me, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but for me in Taurus, it meant everything broke for me before I was able to find relationships that worked for me. And not just not romantic at all, honestly, just the community that I needed, right? That's when I friendships broke, my marriage broke up, we got divorced. Trying to figure out what it means to see myself outside of relationships has been a big part of this Uranus seventh house transit for me. And so in that time, there is a way that it was asking me to get into the depths. If I stop stinging myself, if I stop buying into the story other people had constructed about my sense of worth, right? These institutions that I have relied upon, that I have felt I had to compromise with, Pluto and Libra. This is a Pluto and Libra generation thing that we are all being asked to do. If your Pluto is in Libra, we have to go through a death and transformation of our relationship to relationships and how that then impacts our economic systems and justice. Again, here we go back again. Here we go back again. The story, right? The story of care and how we relate to one another directly impacting the ways that we understand money and value and worth. So, can we go into the scorpionic waters and retell that story? Because I learned 4 years ago that the story of me stuffing it down, of me telling myself I could just take the burden because I was told my body could. Again, I'm 6'3". I am not a small woman. I'm a big bitch. I take up space, but I have been told both my body was meant to take other people's shit, to hold their things, but then also don't take up space. Make yourself as small as possible. So here I was in the middle of a goddamn small, it's like a fucking Hallmark movie, y'all. I swear to God, my life's a goddamn country song sometimes. It's like a fucking Hallmark movie. But instead of me finding the man and staying there, I was in the shit of it, had the man, and I said, get the fuck out. It was like the get out edition for myself of Hallmark, right? Because that was not the story. I have bounded myself so much that I have bought into other people's constructions. And this is not a unique story. I know plenty of people have themselves are having this, have had this, and are having to face this. This new moon in Scorpio that we are coming up to is saying we can plant new seeds, but in order to do that, you got to get into the depths of you. You're going to have to feel some shit. You're going to have to figure out what are these kind of new revelations that are coming up, because Lilith is also part of this. You see how I keep adding shit to it, y'all? It's like a goddamn cauldron. The shit is packed in Scorpio right now. So Lilith is here. Again, part of this water trine conversation. So the waters are here, all the waters, the shallow, the bounded, and the deep ones. The mothers. The mothers allow, but so are the dead, because the waters are where the dead reside. So who are we calling upon? Who are we calling upon? What dead are we engaging with? Right? Because Scorpio is also death. Taboo things include death. And this new moon is having a conversation as well with Pluto, the Lord of the underworld, and Aquarius, the collective. Collectively, we are going to have to die and be reborn. And we're having to review the stories because it's in a conversation with Neptune at 29 degrees, but then also Uranus. The stories that we have held on to about security and stability that are blown the fuck up. Right? But what happens when the taboo things do come up? What do we do with that information? Right now in the US, right? Well, it's global, but we're having these conversations about these Epstein files. And folks are really, it's like picking a bone, right? And if we think about everything I just talked about, it makes a lot of sense. Taboo things, ideas of sex and scandal and secrets being revealed and shaking foundations and money and economic systems and justice is all the story, right? But let's get further into it though, because again, we're talking about Cancer here. There's Cancerian themes all throughout this. What body is being used over and over and over again as a location of righteous justice for people, right? To talk about why we need to have these files open and why we need these secrets revealed, because why we got to protect the children. Children, once again, we've been talking about this story for a while as well. So now children are being used as another excuse, right? This idea that children cannot choose because they can't. Pedophilia now becomes the word. Power and corruption, big names. Because again, protect the children. And at the exact same time, we're having a state that has been playing with our kids by playing with our food systems, playing with the family, playing with care. Because we have been having all these chaotic communications. Communication once again. We believe the communications that we've been receiving. So with no benefits for SNAP, then you're going to get partial benefits. Then depending upon the state, then, then the Supreme, then we get rulings that saying, no, you got to block it. And then we're going to, oops, never mind. We're going to go ahead and compromise. But it's not really a compromise. It's saying that, we're in Mercury retrograde. We're going to revisit it at the end of Mercury retrograde. So basically we just said a stop point because we're going to give you some money for right now, but then it might be taken away again. But we care about kids, right? We care about kids. So then people are getting online because we have a lonely epidemic. Like I said last week, the story continues, y'all. The story continues, in which folks have to make themselves feel superior in one way, shape, or form in order to gain attention. So we're getting all these rage baits, right? All these rage baiting kind of contents and think pieces, and they're not even think pieces; they're reaction pieces, right? To what's going on, trying to make yourself feel better. Well, at least I'm not like one of those pores, right? And then all of a sudden, people care about the poor and poverty. All of a sudden, people care about ableism. So now we resurrect even more marginalized bodies. We go from children to the poor and to the disabled. Yet when we need to fund those things, people say, well, you got to pull it up by your bootstraps. So now they are using that as rage bait, because why? We are so lonely because we don't know how to connect, because we have been told that we have to make ourselves better than, bound ourselves away from each other. But now we are seeing the impact of that. But it's about kids, right? Release the Files is about the kids. But yet, anytime we talk about the foundations of society that will allow us to have the ability for kids to have what they need, which then goes back to family and community, we're told that is not the state's problem. That is not anybody. That is a personal thing that you have to do. Which is it, y'all? We're showing our contradictions as we are weaponizing the margins once again, while at the same time not realizing we are all one kind of step away from being marginalized ourselves. But if we were to believe that, we would have to feel, we would have to go into and review where we bought into that shit, which means we're going to be breaking through some of the most foundational things that we have been taught that we're going to be safe and secure. And none of it is. So the new moon in Scorpio is going to reveal some secrets, so structurally, but also personally. 4 years ago, my brain broke because it had to, right? It had to break. I had to break because I was breaking, but I didn't want to believe myself. I didn't want to believe myself. I didn't want to believe my body, right? I was a good 70 pounds heavier, and it was mostly inflammation. Dead ass, it was inflammation. I could barely eat. My stomach was a mess. I would go up and down. And for me, my weight is an indication of the inflammation, right? And mental health wise, like I couldn't, I felt like I had no one to talk to because I didn't. I was in this fucking podunk white town. And I really do mean that, not to be disrespectful, but to have an understand it truly was. I was living down a fucking dirt road, right? Chilling on a dirt road. Like that's y'all, I would do like 2-hour walks on these dirt roads. And oh, that's a story for another day. That's a story for another day. But it had to break. It had to break, y'all. Like I was going into shops thinking that I wanted live, laugh, and love signs on my door. I mean, like I was living somebody else's fantasy, right? Reality that was really a fantasy. So I had to break, which meant I had to feel. And it's not a one-time thing, right? It's not a one-time thing. It's the beginning. It's the beginning. I had to make some choices. Choices, crossroads. We are all at a crossroad. We all have a choice to make in this. Even if it feels like the choice is shit and shit, there's still a choice you have to make. So the choice I had to make then was, and it was shit and shit. It really felt like shit and shit. I had left my job. I had left a good paying job. Okay. I was like, if I leave this man, he's now carrying the health insurance for the full goddamn relationship. It's not even about him. It's just how it ended up being. For 15 years, we were together, 10 years married. I carried the insurance because I had jobs then, which ended up being cheaper. He was an engineer, but I worked in higher ed. So it ended up being cheaper because he usually worked for small businesses. The one time that he then carries the insurance, because again, I was always sick, my ass then decides and realizes I'm gay and, and I need to get divorced, right? Like, literally to Montero. I was like, well, God damn it. Like, so, and again, I had taken money out of my retirement. Like I was trying to prove myself. And the minute my shit broke, again, Scorpio rules banks and monies, y'all, and our relationship to them, I realized just how much I was used to giving everything away. Neptune, second house, squaring the fifth house. Neptune square reveals where you've been delusional. I was delusional about where my value and worth were. It's been a 4-year journey around that, but it had to break because I was breaking. So allow yourself to break, y'all. Let's see what's going to break because right now we on a break down, steady breaking me on down. So if it's breaking, and if we believe that, then we have the power to then remake. It's a new moon. It's a new moon. We'll see in 6 months what comes from these beginning plantings, but it's a new moon. Plant the seeds. Plant the seeds. All right. If you want to plant some seeds with us and you in Chicago, come out Tuesday to Dorothy downstairs. We're going to plant some seeds about queering these conversations around what family and community are by talking with community workers, folks who work in and with the community in different ways, from a librarian who's also a rapper to a mom who's also a leader in the queer party scene to intellectual and academic whose work has been foundational to remaking Black queer feminist thought, but is also somebody who has been a community gatherer for the past 20 years and is really starting to come more into that in the public. So what does it mean for us together on the table, myself and my homie, my roomie, my co-creator, Forrest, to conjure and really queer this idea of what family can be as a way for us to think about community differently. And this is where we bring in economic systems in. How do we think about the ways we see and treat each other and exchange with each other? So this is really about all of us having to grow up. So this is also starting a conversation about what does it mean for us in our 40s, y'all, in our 40s and higher, to see ourselves as the new elders. This is about eldership. Saturn is still Saturn in the deep waters, and she's saying going to come up to the Aries for next year. This is a reflection about what is required to actually lead, right? Lead collectively into these new beginnings. So join me there, okay, if you can. Also, I didn't talk about this earlier because Mercury, but do this week on Wednesday. I'll also be having the second of my 3-part Astrology 100 series. We did Astrology 100 last week. That was actually a good time, y'all. That was fun. If you want to still have access to that, you can purchase a recording of that conversation at biglizconjure.com. But this time we're going to be talking about the planets and the zodiacs. So the who and the how of the astrology chart. So if you want a foundational understanding of how to read this astrology, your astrology chart, and you want to learn from somebody who leads through a Black queer lens of curiosity and play, join me on Wednesday, all right? You can find out more information about how to sign up in the show notes below as well. And I got something else, y'all. Finally, I had written this down. December 4th, I'll be doing a salon conversation. It's part of the Queer and Chaos series, in which I'll be doing more intimate conversations with a group of no more than 15 folks, queer folks. And this time we're going to be talking about what does it mean to queer spirit as a way for us to build community. So these are kind of the incubators, the containers that I'm creating in the city to help take these concepts and bring them into fruition. So again, sacred into the mundane. So if you're in Chicago, keep a lookout for that. The first one will be December 4th. Again, I'll have that in the show notes as well. And for the full video, right, for the full weekly breakdown, please join the Patreon. So these live tapings are free, but if you want the full video after I am done, they are available on my Patreon at the groundscape level and higher. But if you want condensed versions of them, I will have that available on my YouTube. Oh, and also, y'all, this is for Spotify, because y'all get on my goddamn nerves. They blocked my my episode last week for a day, because at the end of each episode, if you listen to the show ever on YouTube or Spotify, they're available there as well. I put one of my songs. So Forrest and I are part of a group called Chimeranage. She's an amazing Forrest. Forrest is an amazing music producer and stuff. So we have our own music. And so I put at the end of that song, end of that video, I think it was Cosmos, one of the songs that's out on Spotify. And they're going to tell me that there's a violation of copyright infringement. So they have to check in with the artist or something. And I said, bitch, I am the artist. So if you are listening to this episode on my YouTube or on Spotify, all the songs at the end of the show are from Chimeranage, which is the group I'm a part of, again, with Forrest Brooks. And Forrest Brooks Jr. is the music producer for all the music, both the intro and the conclusions for the show. So I want to give a shout out to him as well. All right, y'all. That's all I got. So thank you for joining me. This is an elevated conversation with the cosmos, talking about this new moon in Scorpio that is going to continue to shake some shit up. So allow it to shake it up and let me know how things go in the comments below, y'all, because I'm always interested to see how these transits play out for folks as well. And that's how we learn from each other, okay? All right. So keep dreaming, keep exploring, because it's through the dreamscapes we can bring the reality we say we want into the present. Till next time, y'all. I don't want to be right. I just want to be free. Like Michelle sang. The cosmos, where we come from. The light that lit the way for our ancestors in the dark of night, when they had to leave the spaces that tried to steal their breath and life. Reworking, while also learning how to work with the land that was also being worked. A land and people under duress. The trees did not ask if they wanted to participate in such brutal practices. Yet here they were. Here we are. All beholden to a power structure that only knows how to take and never to give, while telling us this is the right way to live. So I don't want to be right. I just want to be free. As Michelle sang, the cosmos. The cosmos. We'll learn to imagine that freedom lied in parable of the sower that sowed the seeds of earth's seed that wanted to bring humans back to the stars, to start again, to start anew. Remember where we come from and who we are. The stars that lit the way, that guide the light. The moon that holds the tides of the waters. Our connection to earth and land. As above, so below. Yet we don't know, because we have lost the above and the below. So I don't want to be right. I just want to be free. And journey to the cosmos.